No, so that's again, so that actually leads us into the point. The one thing I wanted to tie back to is you were talking about like going online and reading about dream
Oh
interpretations
yeah,
and stuff.
dream interpretation. I got so obsessed with it for a while, right? And it's all very vague. I mean, all just like all the zodiac stuff and the tarot, and it's like I'm not.
Astrology.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not negating it, any of that stuff
I
by
think
by
there's a
any
lot
means.
to it.
Exactly, but it's like a it's like a direction. You know, it's like
It's
somebody grabbing you in
I
a
like the
field.
word tendency.
Yeah, it's like
It doesn't.
that
It's not
way.
like it's written in stone,
Uh
you
huh.
know.
They're gonna
Um,
they're gonna flip you a fucking like they're gonna give you a bone like
or even like an analogy is a lot of the new science of genetics says that yeah, genetics doesn't exactly determine your life, but it writes the script, right? So if you give the same script to Steven Spielberg and you give that same
mm,
script to Quentin Tarantino, you're going to get two very different movies.
yeah,
So
yeah,
your genes are the script, but
yeah,
your character is still yours to determine.
yeah,
And I feel like with dream interpretation, I feel like in astrology, the people who really understand it on a level of science, like yeah, they're very good at predicting tendencies,
uh huh.
but nobody's
Patterns.
ever 100% right,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
that's
It's like the
why.
weather. They're like weathermen for our emotional
Right. I mean,
needs.
I mean, and you think about the relationship there, like astrology is based on like planetary alignments and all that sort of stuff,
Yeah.
which kind of affects weather when you think about it on a like a macro micro level, as
Uh-huh.
above,
Mm-hmm.
as above, so below, and shit like that. But yeah, back
Dream.
to dream interpretation, man. Like, I'm glad you brought it up because my mom had a book. It was literally called like the book of dream interpretations, and it was like
Yeah.
it was like a coffee table book
Uh-huh.
growing up,
All the
and
symbols and the animals.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
She was into astrology, and because of her character, I always like
Yeah.
had a tainted view of all of that stuff
True.
because she's just fucking loon, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah,
but
definitely.
but when I grew up and I started to learn about psychology a little bit and like the precession of the equinox, some of the things Graham Hancock talks about, ancient civilizations, the Mayan calendar, I realized that there is some truth to this stuff, but I'm not an expert at numerology or astrology, so I can't
Yeah.
speak too deeply onto it. But the dream interpretation thing, I really am into like Toltec wisdom and the Four Agreements, and I'm sure you've heard me talk about all that before.
For sure. For
Um,
sure. I
and they
mean,
believe that like this life is a dream. Like there's a difference between
yeah.
the sleeping dream where there's no frame, and this
Uh-huh.
dream where there is a frame.
Uh-huh.
But that frame is really the biggest difference,
We get to live in both.
right? Not at the same time necessarily, but yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
We
but it
our
gives
mind
us.
is always dreaming,
Mm,
and see, but that's the point I'm getting to is when the Toltecs use the word dreaming, I think it's almost exactly like the same thing as interpreting. Because if you're dreaming, you're interpreting. You see what I'm saying? So
yeah, you're always
if I see a
processing information.
tree and I use the word tree in my mind and identify it and give it that symbol and that sound, then I've already created my dream in my head in my virtual world just by giving it a symbol.
Yeah,
Whereas it just is what it is. It's just
true.
light. But even when I call it light, that's me giving it a story. You know what I mean? If I
Uh-huh.
call it a certain frequency of DNA, that's still me giving it a symbol. Like I can't avoid the virtual reality that I create because it's the only way that I can share my perception with somebody else.
We have to have some sort of like measurement and structure in order to. I mean, yeah, it's like how do you measure an abstract idea?
You can't.
Yeah, it's like
It's
what.
art.
Yeah, it's but we and then that's we can all agree that something is the way it is because we're all like, all right, this is an abstract idea, but it works. So I mean, who knows? I mean, I guess that's what they use for interpretation. I mean, the Native Americans obviously were more connected than we
And
are
that's
now.
what I was about to say is like
Mm-hmm.
I don't take a position one way or the other on it. I'm just saying I think in order to cultivate the part where like somebody can interpret symbols in such a way that they can then reflect using their words and their perception
Yeah.
onto the dreamer a clear reflection of what they were dreaming. Like
Uh-huh.
that's an art that I don't know that many
Yeah.
people in our culture can even come close to come close to
True.
mastering, or I don't want to say mastering, but even reaching a certain level of mastery, you know.
Yeah. I think it's a good. It's cool, right? It's good to have a different perspective, but I think.
But I think we're all dream interpreters. I feel like
Uh,
that's my issue with dream interpretation is I don't think that there is like a science to it.
well, yeah. Obviously, it's somebody else's
I think
perspective,
there's
and that's what
tendencies.
I was gonna. That's what I was about to say. It's like, yeah, it's cool to. It's
Right,
like when you ask a
exactly
friend
right.
for
It's somebody
advice, but
else's
it's like
perspective.
you still have to make the choice.
At
It's
the end of
like,
the day, your
yeah,
intuition says, okay, I actually agree with what this person's saying, or if your intuition says, I think this person's bullshitting me,
yeah,
then you should use that intuition
mm,
as, okay, this is my moment of dreaming and interpreting
yeah,
that I don't agree. You don't have to like be aggressively and reject them or like be intolerant or anything like that, but you can just disagree. You
yeah,
know, it's nothing personal. You just
yeah,
disagree. And if you ask them for their advice, then you should definitely disagree respectfully because you're the one that asked for
yeah.
it. You know what I mean?
True.
But
Some people just run with it. It's like we're so quick to alleviate our own responsibility. You know, we always want somebody else to like, oh, like what does this mean? And then there's the other side of that too. It's like maybe it didn't mean shit. Maybe there is no meaning. You know, and
or we're
that's
the ones that are
yeah.
assigning meaning every moment.
And then we are the dreamers creating the dream all together. You know.
The dreamer and the what the Toltec's called the stalker, but I feel like it's the part of your awareness that stalks the dream that you want to create. Everybody has a desire to create their own story. They
Yeah.
don't want the story to create. I think everybody, no matter what level of security that you desire, no matter what level of freedom you desire, we all desire to feel a certain level of control over our own lives, to
Well,
feel like the decisions that we make are at least mostly our own, you know?
well, absolutely. I mean, we don't like somebody's like, oh, I wish I had a shit ton of money. It's like, do you really want money or do you want freedom? You want that's what you want. You know, you want power. Well, yeah, because with money comes control and power and opportunity. So it's absolutely. I mean, why would you not want to control your environment? I mean, because it's only like you're either a part of it or you can affect it as much as you can under your own power.
Yeah. But I mean, on even on a deeper level, just like even if like on a physical level, on a
Uh,
material level, everything is cause and effect, supposedly, right? But then it's like,
yeah.
okay, then where does freedom come in? You know, I feel like that is kind of what spirit being spiritual is. Like, it's
Right.
not necessarily being religious, it's just a strive to understand where our freedom comes from.
So, wow. Yeah. So what if so when we're awake, are we dreaming with free will, and then when we're asleep, we have no free will in our dreams? I mean, can you control your dreams?
I think you can, but I also think that is basically what the Toltec mastery is. It's a mastery of learning how to control your dream.
Yeah. So I don't know if you want to keep talking about dream interpretation, but
But yes, I do.
yeah,
But what my point was with dream interpretation is that's almost like saying the same thing twice. Like for me, the way that I interpret the meaning of those two words, those two symbols, is like to interpret is to dream. Like people associate dreaming. Usually, when you hear the word dream, you think of like what you experience when you're asleep.
yeah,
But what you experience when you sleep, you actually said it perfectly at the beginning, and I don't even know if you realize how awesomely you put it, but the brain doesn't notice a
yeah,
difference. The brain is just dreaming 24/7. The
yeah,
only difference between what happens when we're asleep and what happens when we're awake is there is a material frame
yeah.
to this living world that we're all sharing, what the Toltecs call the collective dream.
So are we? So we're all sharing this one, but are we when we're asleep? Are we all connected there as well?
I think so personally, but it does have a
There's
very
billions of souls souls just all jammed in there with their own
But I
agenda.
also feel like there's
And
a
we're all running
much
into each other.
higher level of individualism in that world.
Probably it's
It's like
probably beyond.
it's like a psychic realm, so there's a lot
Maybe.
more of an individual uh,
Yeah,
feeling
it's like
or
beyond polarity, and it's just
yeah.
straight like intellectual
You're facing
symbols
yourself, like you're exploring the self and everything that the self is about and
swimming around in your brain. It's like when
freedom,
your eyes are open, you're going out
fighting for freedom again.
360,
Exactly, right.
and then when you're asleep,
That's
you close
that's
your
another great
eyes.
way to put it there.
It's like the opposite of 360 in the dome. You're
Right.
going. It's like you're compressing. Your consciousness is compressing, going the other direction.
Right.
Like what a mind fuck.
Yep.
Like if you think people think infinity, it goes on forever, but that means it goes forever the other direction. And how the fuck does that happen?
That's a really good question. That's like what quantum science is trying to tackle.
So we're just
One of the many problems it's trying to tackle.
we're just dying and
Well, I mean, now you're starting to get into like multi-dimensional theory and stuff like that.
yeah, I know.
Which all of that
Strange.
stuff is really, I mean, honestly, when you start to expand all the way out, you get to the point where the universe is a hologram. We're just a dense hologram here
Well,
on this
yeah.
planet.
Fucking everything is mostly empty space.
I feel like the sun is like a hologram projector,
Uh-huh.
but it's also a hologram of like the galaxy. It's like both, you know, like we're both
Light reflecting light.
we're both like a cell, like one individual cell
Mhm.
of the organ of humanity, but then we're also made up of billions of cells.
Right.
You know, it's that same sort of concept where it's like the sun
Uh-huh.
is like a
And then if you
hologram
take billions of
projector
planets and
and a
compress them
hologram.
together, and it makes somebody's fingernail on another planet.
Yeah, that
Ow!
all of these concepts are like true, but then once we put them into words, it's like our perception again. And
Exactly.
so
We're
somebody else hears these symbols
trying
and
to put
these
it,
words,
yeah.
and they're using their imagination based on their experience to like construct, you know, to try to understand our perception.
Mhm.
And they might understand it, but they might not. And a lot, even when we're talking, like we might understand
we
it,
all have to
we might not.
interpret. We all have to like interpret our own dream.
That was ultimately what I was getting to is when it comes to dream interpretation, it's like you can always ask, and obviously like in shamanic cultures and indigenous cultures,
Mhm.
they had somebody literally that was trained in this, and it's our culture like shuns the idea that somebody could be a master of dreaming,
Oh, of
you know,
course, right.
because that's like voodoo stuff or woo woo stuff or whatever they want
Woo.
to
But
classify it
we
as.
still get our president to put their hand on a Bible that
But
nobody
we
believes in,
still
or
dream. Those people still have dreams, and I just feel like a lot of those people don't talk about their dreams. They don't talk about anything that they can't understand.
no, it's because it scares us.
But I feel
It
like
scares the
natural.
majority of people.
But aren't we naturally explorers? Like if you look at toddlers, they're trying to get into everything
Well, yeah, man.
that they're allowed to get into.
We've explored our planet. We can't. I mean, we've gone out into space, and there's nothing really anything to immediately in our grasp. So it's like, well we can't.
I mean, that's
Everything's been
explored the psyche. We
Yeah,
haven't explored the
exactly.
psyche yet.
Every mountain has been climbed. Every sea has been sailed. So it's like now.
But the
fuck
depths
it,
of the
let's-
seas haven't really been. That's like one pretty
Yeah.
mysterious place, deep
Yeah.
sea.
I don't know. I think we're all going to hell anyways. I'm not trying to get down there.
Wait, what do you mean going to hell though? Don't you feel like we already are?
No. It's just dark. There's probably nothing down there. It's probably like, I mean, you go out into space and it's empty, and then you go down into the water and it's dark and then empty. And
I don't know about all that, man. I feel like space
Fucking
is
planets down
teeming
there.
with life, and the deep sea is teeming with life. It's just
Jelly-
not life as we know it,
jellyfish like break dancing
or
and
whatever,
shit.
dude. Like it could be
Oh,
like a
shit.
whole, like you know, they discovered like a whole. I mean, this was like 15 years ago, so it's not new now, but. You know, like they used to have like 5 animal kingdoms or like life
Yeah.
kingdoms, and they had to add a 6th one because there was like extreme organisms that only lived in like super hot or super cold environments that were single celled or multi celled, depending on
Life.
like it was they could change depending on their environment. But I don't know the exact details behind all that. But I know that we're exploring and finding new things all the time about our history,
Yeah, man.
like the Denisovians that have been found in Siberia now that are related to the Neanderthals in some way.
Yeah.
That's kind of, I don't know if we want to get into all that, but as far as the dream, to connect everything back to dreaming, it's like
So that means we can wake up in our dream.
you,
If we're
you
conscious
right.
and we're dreaming, can we be conscious while we're asleep and dreaming?
Absolutely.
Lucid dreaming?
Lucid dreaming
Have
is
you done it
absolute.
before?
I absolutely have done it, but I'm far from like a master in it. Have you ever seen Waking Life?
Yeah.
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 So one of the parts of Waking Life that if you really want to like get into lucid dreaming, which I am a novice, I wouldn't even consider myself a beginner. I'm on level 1. Most people are on level 0. I'm on level I would give myself level 1 or maybe like level a half, but moving in the right direction. But one of the parts of that movie where if you are in a dream or if you think you're in a dream, cut the light on or cut the light off
Right.
because
Never
that's
answer.
something. Well, I don't even, I mean, for whatever reason, light is something that even in my dream I
You
can
can't
go
control.
but sometimes it hits me. It's like, oh shit, am I dreaming? Let me,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll like look for a light, and sometimes so this has happened to me, right? And this is a total dreaming thing. I'm sure a lot of people
Yeah.
can relate to this, but it's like sometimes I'll have that moment where I'm like, "Oh shit, am I dreaming?" And I'll think, "Okay, I need to find a light switch or like a way to try to control the light so I can figure out whether I'm dreaming or not."
Ah,
And then in the process of looking for the light switch or the light bulb
you wake
or
up.
the lamp, no, not I
Yeah.
wake up. I just forget what the fuck I'm doing because it's a dream, and all
Ah.
this other shit starts coming up, like other some random person will walk up or like you know what I mean? Like something random will happen that will make me forget that I was trying that I thought for a second that, oh, is this a dream? And then something will distract me from turning the light on or off, and then I'll just go right back to dreaming without being conscious of dreaming. And I've caught myself doing that a couple times, but then I've also had it was really honestly, it was only one time where I cut the light off and it didn't go off. And I was like, oh fucking shit, I'm dreaming right now. And that's a really cool experience because then you really can fly and you really can like do some pretty amazing things because the amount of risk that you're willing to take is quite a bit higher when you realize that you're dreaming,
Dude,
that you can't die.
I bought this little book. It's like a fucking paperback, it's like 50 pages on lucid dreaming, and it was just practices on how to do it. It was a very beginner level shit, right? And I was
And this
like,
is why I consider myself a 100% novice because I also
uh-huh.
bought a book. It's called How to Stop Sleeping Through Your Dreams.
Oh, really?
And I got to the part where it said you pretty much, in order to get to the next level, you need to be able to remember your dreams. If you can't
So
remember
you,
your dreams, then you're not going to be able to learn the art of realizing that you're
yeah.
dreaming when you're dreaming. And so I've dreamt a few times without writing it down recently, and I'm kind of mad at myself because I have a journal right
But
there,
keep your eyes
ready to
closed.
write it
The
down.
key is,
And
so if you dream, you wake up, don't open your eyes. Because if you keep your eyes closed, your brain isn't processing any new information. So oh, sorry, man, I'm leaning away from the mic. Um, so you keep your eyes closed, lean over, like grab the pencil and chicken scratch, like replay the dream in your mind, and just write it down. You're not gonna, don't worry about it. You're not gonna be able to see. Your eyes are closed. It's dark.
I've
Whatever.
done it a couple
Yeah,
times,
go
but
back to sleep.
it's for whatever reason for me, like I don't know if it's a demon or like
A
a
demon.
brain parasite, whatever, however you want to call like whether you're religious or scientific, you might call it different names, but there's definitely something going on in my biology, in my physiology that like always is trying to distract me from that focused state of, you know,
Your true self, your higher self.
right. Or not even, I don't know if you want to word it like that, but that balanced feeling of like it's just like that perfect balance of being in the moment and your brain is able to record it like memory. Like you're remembering what's happening and you're not like talking to yourself in your head. It's just like your intuition is just recording it. You're just soaking it up
You're
almost.
just
You're
you're like the
soaking up the
observer.
moment.
You're
Yeah.
just observing
But
yourself
no, but not just observing. You're observing and experiencing
and
at the
and
same time,
participating.
like with perfect balance.
So it's like,
A flow state is what a lot of people have referred to this as
well, yeah,
in modern
isn't
kinesiology and
that
whatever.
meditation? Isn't that just single-mindedness? Like when
Yeah, meditation is certainly a way you can practice
you're
that.
not
Yeah.
you're not conscious, you're just rolling. But shit, man, I don't know. You lost me. What were you? Dreams, the lucid dreaming.
Yeah, lucid. You said you bought a book on it. That's what you were going.
Bought a fucking book on it. Did one of these practices. You said the light that was in the book. They're
Right.
like, if you think, there's some practices you do, and so what you had to do is you practice when you're awake. So like one of the practices were if you're in a situation and you're like, what the fuck? During your day, you look at your hand, look at the back of your hand, right? Right. You have all these. You know your hand. Like you could see a picture of your hand everywhere. You'd be like, that's my fucking hand, right? But that's your subconscious can't put those kind of details together when you're dreaming. So, long story short, I was dreaming and I was chewing on gum, but it was like a shit ton of gum. It's like I'd put like 5 or 6 packs in there, and I was reaching my fingers into my mouth trying to pull all this gum out. And then I remember I was like, wait a minute, something's up with this. And I look at my hand and I was like, boom, 6 fingers, 7 fingers. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I throw the table up and I take off running and I'm awake in my dream, but I wake up. I'm like, shit, right? Happened a second time. I'm in my apartment and this time I was at FFE. This is right in the corner of Broad Boulevard, like a couple of years ago. And I'm in my kitchen, but it was on the opposite side. And I was like, what the fuck? Did the same thing. Looked at my hand. You get 6 fingers, 7 fingers. So I walk down the hallway. I walk through the door without opening it. And I take off running down the fucking hallway. Wake up.
Oh.
I couldn't stay. So, like, that's the part.
As soon as you started like doing things that you wanted to do, like superpower type shit, that's when you woke up.
Well, and that's what he gets to is like you have to find the balance. When you wake up, you have to, oh shit, I'm awake in my dream. Like imagine, like wrap your mind around that. If that's never happened to you, like being in your dream, think about like the craziest fucking dream you had, like the last one you had, and then all of a sudden, snap, you're fucking awake, you're conscious, and like you have full control over yourself, but now you're in a dream. There's no fucking limitations as far as physics go, right? Anything goes. That's a lot of fucking. That's a lot to handle, right? Their reality is gonna fucking shatter. That's like being God. It's dangerous. So what would happen is I was having these dreams where I was just. They were mindless. It was like I was just destroying shit. I'd have a fucking weight bar and just trashing windows and I would wake up. Or like wake up and I'd run in and I'd be like, oh yeah, I'd like slap some girl in the ass and then I'd wake up. Right? Very, very primitive, just mindless fucking things. Right? All this power. You wake up in your dream world and I'm doing some dumb shit that I would do in real life if I couldn't get caught, right? It's childish.
That's what a lot of people do when they first. That's actually the number one thing that people do when they first are able to lucid dream is have a lot of sex.
Is fuck or destroy shit.
Yeah, the number one thing is sex though.
Yeah,
destroying stuff is definitely. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's definitely up there, but from what I understand, sex is definitely like the number one thing that people go for when they become avid lucid dreamers.
Why not?
Right.
Like anybody who says they wouldn't are fucking lying.
Well, I mean, I think I will say this: older people,
everywhere.
older people who are past their sexual, their animalistic, whatever.
You don't think they would like snap their fingers and get their young hard cock back real quick and run around and do all the
Maybe,
honeys?
maybe,
Like, oh
but
yeah,
I
I'm
don't,
gonna do it one more time.
I don't think it would be like overpowering for somebody like that,
No, I get it. I mean, but if you go and
or
if you're in a
somebody who's
dream,
just very sexually satisfied
yeah, yeah. I mean, but
or oversatisfied.
I mean,
I don't think there's too many people like that. Don't get me wrong, not in this culture,
hey
but
man,
I think there are some.
I mean, what's the if the dream world is the same? This is a frame. Then what's the difference, right? You're fucking somebody in real life. You can fuck anybody you want. In the
Well,
dream world.
I was gonna say the difference in the dream world is there's no repercussions.
Yeah.
You know, in real life, there's
In the frame, there is consequences.
right. There's cause and effect.
And then we have
Cause and effect. There's no. That is one thing I think even Don Miguel says in one of his books is there's no there's no linear time. There's no linear time in dream world.
Yeah.
In this frame, even if it's not scientifically uh, a linear experience, you know, only now exists if you want to break down science to the real root of things. But because we live in a story, because we're story-based creatures, we experience time as if it's linear
Yeah.
in this frame.
We
But
have to in order to.
we don't when we dream. Even though we are story-based creatures, we come up with all these crazy stories in our dream, but time still doesn't exist in that sleeping dream world.
It's like we have to maintain.
In the frameless dream world.
We have to maintain our identity through our stories about ourselves.
Right.
Because it's like, who are you right now?
Our stories
Fucking
are
nobody.
our identity.
Yeah, man. That's some trippy shit.
I mean, what are we without the story? We're just here right now, experiencing this moment.
Yeah.
Sharing a story, sharing symbols, but if you didn't speak English, you would just be looking at me like, what the fuck noise are you making?
Yeah, but we could still, you could still manage. I mean, 80% of our communication is nonverbal.
I agree we could still manage, but we wouldn't be able to share stories the way you and I can because we do speak the same language.
True.
Language and dreaming are intertwined in a way that is very mysterious to me.